When will inventory start to build? When will we see more available homes for sale? Well, we're actually starting to see it right now in a lot of markets across the United States. I have a lot of viewers commenting on my videos saying that they're starting to see price reductions in certain price ranges in different markets. They're starting to see homes sit on the market longer than they have before. Is this a sign that the housing market is about to stall? Are we going to see price reductions across the board? Is this going to lead to something bigger? Well, we're going to spend a little bit of time today and talk about inventory, what we're seeing across the United States as a whole, what we'll likely see going forward over the next couple of months, and how this will likely play out. Now, it's all going to depend on your market, of course, but we're going to talk about the markets that will probably, be affected the most with regards to inventory increases. And then we're going to talk about the markets that are going to stay strong regardless of what happens with these inventory levels over the next couple of months. Now, you've heard me talk about inventory before, and it's been a problem, right? We don't have a lot of supply out there. Interest rates have been low, buyer demand's been high, and so it's led to this crazy dynamic in the housing market where things are selling very, very quickly over asking price in multiple different scenarios, and it's become the norm. And what I've said in other videos is there's only going to be two things that change the dynamic in the housing market, and that is either an increase in supply or a decrease in buyer demand. And that decrease in buyer demand could come from higher interest rates, which we know isn't really likely to happen for the next couple of years. Now, they are going to fluctuate here and there, but you're not likely to see any huge increase in interest rates. So, in my opinion, the only real thing that could slow the housing market is this increase in supply. And my thoughts have always been that, people aren't selling their homes right now for a couple of different reasons. One, you've got the pandemic going on. You've got people that don't want people in their homes for whatever reason. They're scared. They just don't want the potential virus, if you will, coming into their home. So those people aren't selling their homes. Then you have the people that would be potential sellers that want to sell their homes for whatever reason. Maybe they need a larger home. Maybe they're looking to, move out of the area, or maybe they have a larger home and they're looking to downsize and go into something smaller, but they're out there looking at available inventory and they're not seeing anything that really meets their eye, nothing that fits what they're looking for in a home. And so instead of doing, selling their home contingent or what have you, or being homeless in some cases, selling their home and not having any place to go, they're just sitting on the sidelines waiting for those inventory levels to increase. And, we're starting to see inventory levels increase in some markets. Here in Southern California, things haven't really changed a lot. In fact, I've actually seen more inventory come to the market, but I've seen it met with buyer demand. So, the inventory levels aren't really showing any gains because people are, picking up those properties as they come to the market. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that buyer demand has increased. It just means that, instead of having 10 or 20 offers on one property, now those offers are spread across multiple properties. So, buyers have more options now, which is allowing them to get into escrow quicker, and therefore supply isn't really building. But then you have markets like Phoenix, Arizona, for example. I have a good friend that's in that market, and he often updates me, actually every Monday, with a report where they talk about what's going on in inventory levels. And he gives me a little bit of analysis as to why they think inventory levels are starting to build. And it's what we discussed last week in the video where we talked about affordability, which I'll link to here. Affordability is becoming an issue, right? You can have, huge buyer demand, but at some point, when house prices reach, a certain threshold, there's a limit to the number of buyers that can afford those homes. And that's what he said is starting to happen in his market, is that, there's, home prices have risen so much in such a short period of time that the number of buyers that can afford those properties is starting to dwindle. And therefore, inventory is starting to build, right? Whereas couple of months ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, or what have you, every property that came on the market had a buyer. Well, when prices increase to a point where, you only have a limited number of buyers, those buyers are only going to go so far, and therefore inventory starts to sit on the market a little bit longer. And I think that is one of the factors that we're starting to see across the country, right? Prices have reached a point in a lot of markets where the number of buyers in that price point has started to dwindle. And so I think that's going to be one of the drivers of an increase in supply is that affordability, right? Just the limited number of people that can afford those properties. The second thing I think is going to play into those inventory levels increasing in some markets is the fact that, the pandemic is somewhat under control, right? For the most part, right? People are more comfortable right now with the idea that they can go out, mingle with other people. They no longer have to wear a face mask everywhere they go. And so therefore you're going to get more people willing to go out and sell their homes and put them on the market. And that's going to cause inventory levels to increase. And then along with that, as those inventory levels increase, those buyers that were also sellers are now seeing more property come to the market that kind of fits what they've been waiting for. And so now those sellers are potentially going to put their homes on the market because now there's something for them to buy. So I think you've got all of these factors playing in to what will likely cause inventory levels to increase across the board. That, and we're going into what would normally be, the hottest time of the year to sell properties, which is, that spring summer market. And so all of those factors playing in means that you're likely to see inventory levels increase. Now, does that mean that you're going to see a decrease in home prices, that home prices are going to pull back? Possibly in some markets for sure. Now, in those markets that are, I would say, a little more on the outskirts, they're not the metro areas, where people have kind of migrated through the pandemic and they've been looking to get out of the bigger cities. I think, those areas are going to see, as inventory levels increase, I think those, markets are likely to see a stall in appreciation a little sooner than the bigger metro areas like the Boise, Idahos, the Phoenix, Arizonas, the Austin, Texases. I said that last time and I said it again. The Southern California, those areas that have been super hot because people, because of lower taxes, political reasons, whatever, people have left, California with a lot of money and migrated to some of these other areas. I think those areas will likely continue to do very well, even as inventory levels increase, because their lack of supply has been way worse than most markets. So any supply coming to the market will be a good thing just because of the pent-up buyer demand. And, those markets will continue to do very well, maybe not at the rapid appreciation that we've seen over the last 6 months, but they're going to continue to appreciate, and you're going to see those homes move very quickly. Now, in some of the other markets where, you didn't really have this craziness prior to the pandemic, I think those markets will slow a little bit. And as inventory levels build, you're probably going to see home prices kind of, I wouldn't say, they're not going to drop significantly, but you're likely to see some reduction in home prices, right? Because people need to sell their homes. On top of that, you've got a lot of sellers out there listing their homes for way more than they're worth in many markets because, they see dollar signs and they're being told by their real estate agent, now is the time to sell. You can get way more for your house than it's worth. Price it at anything and somebody's going to make you an offer. And in some cases, that might be the case. That's not the best strategy for most sellers in this market. Price your home at fair market value, and you're likely to receive multiple offers in most cases, which could end up driving that price up. But those that choose to, shoot for the moon, if you will, with regards to home prices, are likely to see some pullback, right? They're likely to have to reduce those home prices in order to get buyers in the door to make offers. And I think as more inventory comes on the market, and you're not the only game in town, so to speak, in a certain neighborhood or what have you, you're going to have to start to get a little bit more competitive in how you approach pricing your home as a seller, because the buyer's going to have multiple options, right? And so how are you going to stand out in this market? Probably going to have to be price, unless you've got something unique about your home that everybody wants for whatever reason. So with that said, I think, I've said it in other videos, I think as you start to see supply increase, you're going to see supply increase. And what I mean by that is the more supply that comes to the market, the more people that are sitting on the sidelines waiting for those right opportunities, the right properties to present themselves. Now those people will also be willing to list their homes. So I think as more homes start to come on the market here in the next couple of months, you're going to see, I don't think the dynamic of the market is going to shift where it becomes a buyer's market by any means. I think it's still going to be a seller's market. I think nice homes are still going to sell very quickly. Homes that are priced correctly are still going to sell very quickly, but you're likely to see more options as a home buyer. So if you're a buyer out there and you've been looking for the right property, I'm not telling you need to buy a house, but I would say that I think more options are probably on their way. More inventory, more opportunity to find the right home could be around the corner. And so if you haven't started the process of pre-approval and going through that, that's something you want to do, because it's still going to be a competitive market. It's not going to, shift entirely just because more supply comes to the market. Now, as I mentioned, real estate's local, so you will see some markets, inventory is going to increase, things are going to slow a little bit in those areas, but the markets that have been hot are likely to stay hot because of what we just discussed. But, if you're somebody out there, you're a first-time home buyer, wondering what you should do, I actually just created a first-time home buyer course that's free. There's a link in the description below. Go and check it out. If you're somebody looking to buy a house, don't really know where to start. If you have comments, questions for me, would love you to put them below in the comments section, and we can definitely have a conversation on the housing market. Love to know your opinions on what's going on out there, what you're seeing in your market. So if you're seeing inventory levels increase, tell me about it. Tell me where you are. And if you're not seeing it, would love to know that as well. But for now, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Appreciate all the support. Hope to see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.